A legal game of seesaw over a Texas immigration law. The measure would allow Texas authorities to deport migrants who cross into the country illegally. After the hold on the law was temporarily lifted, an appeals court put a new hold on the law late Tuesday night. The court heard an hour of oral arguments and did not indicate when they will rule. The Biden administration challenges that the law oversteps federal authority. Texas argues that the law is in line with federal immigration policy. This comes as the state of Arkansas announced 40 National Guard troops will be headed to Texas to assist with border security efforts. All right, let's bring in Rodney Scott, Distinguished Senior Fellow for Border Security at the Texas Public Policy Foundation and former Chief of the U.S. Border Patrol. Rodney, good to see you again, as always. This Texas immigration law is giving a lot of people whiplash, so to speak. Let's talk about where things are right now and what happens, Rodney, if it goes back into effect.
So really, it's a border security law, not just immigration law. And I think some people misunderstand that. And even Texas's piece of it that would tell people that enter the United States illegally in violation of federal law, they can't be in Texas. It just orders them to voluntarily leave. It doesn't include a deportation. That would be a federal piece. And that's what would take place if it goes into law. But I think this was anticipated that it would go, well, that it would make it to the Supreme Court. Maybe the tennis ball thing we're seeing now wasn't really anticipated. But the fact that it goes to the Supreme Court and gets decided there, that's where it will ultimately end up. But Texas is arguing a very unique aspect that no other state has argued before, because we've never seen this chaos. And that is under the Constitution of the United States. The states have a right to defend themselves from invasion. That's the difference between this case and some of the other cases like in Arizona in the past that were strictly about immigration. Texas is arguing the federal government has walked away from their responsibility to protect the states as required under the Constitution, and they're leveraging their right under the same U.S. Constitution, which is more important than any law written under that, that they can protect themselves. And all they want to do is simply use the laws that are on the federal books and enforce them to protect Texas and the country.
Yeah, and of course, the U.S. is arguing that this oversteps federal authority. Your thoughts on that, Rodney?
Yeah, again, I think it's a unique angle that because Texas is arguing the invasion clause, the premise of this is based in the U.S. Constitution. The federal government has not carried out their responsibility. That it's going to be up to the courts to decide, but it is a unique argument, and I think Texas has a lot of ground to stand on here. We've never in the history of my 30-year career or the history of the United States, to my knowledge, seen the federal government use their authority or their supremacy clause, if you will, to not enforce the law, to literally unsecure the border. It's a very different argument today than what we saw in the Arizona case quite some years ago, where the court ruled against the state. But ultimately, no one knows what the Supreme Court's going to do because it is a unique argument.
Yeah, there's concern by some that this law, that it may lead to racial profiling if an officer asks someone a question about their immigration status for any reason. What do you have to say to that?
Yeah, I think that people are exaggerating and they're listening to rhetoric as opposed to actually reading the law. So I've read the law. Basically what it does is it's dealing with the illegal entry. It's dealing with illegal immigration. It's not encouraging law enforcement officers to run around Dallas or Fort Worth asking about immigration status. It's about interdicting people that are illegally entering the United States or just now recently illegally entered the United States in violation of law, and then holding them accountable. Texas is arresting them now and prosecuting them with trespass. But it's short of being able to order them to leave the country or to leave the state. And that's what SB 4 does, is takes it to that next level. But I think the fears and the rhetoric it's exaggerated. That is not what this law is doing in any way, shape, or form.
Ronnie, almost out of time here, but how do you think, this crisis can be solved? What's the best way forward, do you think?
The best way forward, unfortunately, the Biden administration has lined out their strategy and their policies, and they're not going to change. So every step the Biden administration takes is to fight against different states that are trying to protect themselves and protect the border. So this comes down to what the voters want for this country in November. And that's really where this is ultimately going to be decided. Do we have a border? Do we care about the border and enforce the laws or not? Because we have two very diametrically opposed candidates, and it'll be up to Americans to decide what they want for America.
All right, we're going to leave right there, Rodney. Always good to be with you. Thank you for your insights. Appreciate it.
Thank you.